All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, specifically. Make sure that everything's working all right. I actually had to towel off. That was why I was a little bit late, because it's so fucking hot. It's about 90 degrees right now. And air conditioners were not invented in Europe, for the most part. Let's see. Just a moment. Yes, we are live on Rumble. Very good. I see chat is working. We have a lot to cover today. The Trump FBI raid. Trump had more than 300 classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. We'll be talking about that Nothingburger at length. Don't worry. We got to riff on Nikki Fried, because that's hilarious. Kristi Noem's getting targeted now. DeSantis and others. Keep in mind, there will be a link. If you're watching on YouTube, there will be a link in chat up above. And today's project on Pixel Planet, that link will take you roughly to the coordinates I'm talking about. Do you see the coast of Africa there, generally delineated with a black line? Everything below that should not actually be in orange and yellow. It should be in the dark and light blue. So if you want to start pixeling that in and turn the water back into water, because otherwise we've basically created a giant island off the coast of Africa that really shouldn't be there. I'm a little bit autistic when it comes to this. My OCD is kicking in, so we've got work to do. Also, we flanked the Nazis completely and taken an enormous chunk out of their giant swastika after overrunning the Ukrainians entirely that were on our northeastern border. So we've made huge progress in the course of 48 hours. But yeah, I'll be pixeling some of that in. I did some more of the coastline bordering and so forth. Sometimes those borders actually protect against botting because it'll detect that it's there, generally speaking. So yeah, people are already starting to turn that back into water, which is what it should be. Those are our territorial waters of Clankdom, actually. We own most of West Africa, well, the Ivory Coast region, a huge chunk of Gabon and Congo and Cameroon and some of these other countries are all Clankdom. We own the richest chunk of Africa. We have oil, we have gold, we have diamonds, we have bananas and shit. We've got basically everything, and it ain't no banana republic like Biden's economy. So yeah, if you want to start tiling in the red and yellow that is below the African coastline, generally speaking, and you can refer to a map, in blue, that would be definitely appreciated. We have some hundreds of clankers working on these projects. We've already defeated the Ukrainians that were invading our territory, and now it's onwards to the Nazis. But we have to make sure that we have the ability to go and get fish for our economy on Pixel Planet. Anyway, that's just basically me chuckling about that. I was tiling that in earlier. I'll be watching the progress too. Shit, typo pox again, says Buddy Mac. All right, super chat. Noreen Sutter, good morning. First super chat for me. Here's to the diaper fund. Thank you. I think that's also the first super chat of the day. Lifecock, yo, it's J Crow. Sup, dog? Hello. Beat Bop Boop. How would you feel about Jesse Ventura as president? He's got Trump derangement syndrome now, so I would say that's a hard no from me, dog. Anyway, we'll get right on it as far as news. Trump had more than 300 classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. This has been reported widely over the last 24 hours. Let me ask you this. Did we not already know that there were probably far more than 300 classified documents at the Mar-a-Lago to begin with? They took boxes and boxes of material, and some of them were labeled top secret, classified, etc., miscellany. Basically, Trump decided to do origami at some point, and they took his origami away because it was in White House stationery. They probably would claim ownership over it, by the way. There are several problems with this story. The first is it's an AstroTurf. We already knew that there was classified material at the Mar-a-Lago. What's at stake here is it still classified, or was it declassified by Trump? The second problem is that this entire thing, the raid, the investigation, is pertinent to the White House openly colluding with the DOJ and the National Archives, and Biden explicitly stating himself that he had no problem waiving the executive privilege over these documents for the former president. But there's no reason legally to believe that that's even a legal thing to do. There is a precedent with regards to Bill Clinton and his sock drawer videos that extends executive privilege to the former person who held that office. If that indeed is upheld, and it has been before, especially if it goes before SCOTUS, well, then you can't claim that any of these documents particularly are out of place. You can't wage a legal battle against Donald Trump. You'd have to restore the documents themselves as well. You wouldn't have any choice. At the very least, copies could be made for the archives. That would be fine, but you already had that ability. See, Donald Trump was already talking to you for the better part of a year, was already cooperating in their going through this information, had done nothing wrong specifically, probably would not have had a problem with copies being made. It's beginning to look fishier and fishier because this also proves that the White House lied when they said that Biden and other people in the White House had no idea that this was going on. The raid could not have happened unless Joe Biden had contacted the National Archives and retroactively attempted to waive the executive privilege of Donald Trump. So that's on him completely. He had to have known that a raid would happen because he would have been getting updates. Hey, they're not giving us the material. Trump says it's his. But this has happened before. It happened to Bill Clinton, and he got off scot-free. So this is weirder and weirder what's going on with the Mar-a-Lago raid. Nuke the ice caps. My phone just called EMS. Happy morning, everyone. The worst part is the lady said that this happens regularly. Why is that regular, and how regular is that? I have no clue. I use my phone as little as possible. Fubar 2020, do you believe in an afterlife? No, I believe in reincarnation. It is uncontrollable, continuous, and you will take every form that is known to existence. Adam THM, Sticks, take a look into a game called Cult of Lamb. Build your own town, recruit your own followers, and fight other cult leaders in the name of your demon. Cult of Lamb. Let me put that on the side there. Sounds like my kind of thing. Is this multiplayer? Or? The game follows a possessed lamb who is saved from death by a godlike stranger named the One Who Waits, and must repay their debt by creating a loyal following in its name. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'll take a look at that. Lee, greetings from Dirty Blue, Rhode Island. Did you see the recent video of released police cam of plastered Paul Pelosi? No, I have not, actually. If somebody wants to send me on Twitter, DM, the link to that dash cam video, I would very much like to see that. That'll definitely make a video slot for tomorrow. Boomer, Florida primaries are over. One catch. Congress District 10 had Maxwell Frost win, a Bernie Sanders-backed candidate, a literal commie. Thoughts? Yeah, well, some districts are deep blue. It's the AOC effect. Fubar 2020, will Fauci flee the country at the end of the year? No, I think that he's just trying to make it hard for them to actually prosecute or question him without it looking like sour grapes. I did a video about that the other day. So yeah, Trump, the Mar-a-Lago raid is getting really all sorts of weird, in my opinion. I don't know what exactly is up, escapes me, but it's not good, whatever it is. It's clearly, bullshit, but we'll see. Now we've got an American Mind article here. FBI goes rogue by Conrad Black. I actually disagree with this in part. The FBI hasn't gone rogue. It's doing what it was incepted to do, to persecute the enemies of whatever group happens to be running the United States at any given time. Other than for a few years under Trump, that's been what we would colloquially term the deep state. By the way, that's some neighbor's kid out there screaming. And they've got a little bouncy castle and everything out there. I think it's someone's birthday party, so you might be hearing some background noise. A week after the invasion and 9-hour occupation of former President Trump's home in Palm Beach, Florida, it is becoming clear every day there was no plausible legal reason for it. Agreed. By the way, I'm a little bit congested right now. Again, it's almost 90 degrees, and I'm basically wilting away. It may have been, as is widely been alleged, a fishing expedition to try to find something useful for Nancy Pelosi's January 6th kangaroo court inquiry into the insurrection. But if so, this was a desperation play, and since no such objective was specified in the warrant, nor presumably mentioned in the affidavit supporting the warrant, such a fishing expedition is not legal. Though on recent precedent, legal relevance is the last criterion this regime would take into account. Agreed. That is absolutely true. This was a fishing expedition. There was nothing in the warrant that you've seen. You've got the unredacted version that Trump sent to Breitbart. Nothing in there mentions anything in particular that is conceived of as being illegal. It mentions several criminal codes with regards to the retention of materials, specifically archival materials, under the Espionage Act, which is funny. But it doesn't mention anything in specific that's presumed to have been taken. It just says that we're going to grab up all these classified materials. If, though, the materials were not classified, then the warrant has no legal bearing. The affidavit will not matter. I suspect that they will heavily redact it, and they will release a very small proportion of it to make Trump look guilty, and that this is all a midterm shenanigan. You can expect that before the midterms, by the way. That will happen. Fubar 2020, why do you believe in reincarnation? Because I believe in string theory. Now, I do not believe that it's possible for you to stop existing. And I use this particular methodology. It's really, it's dichotomous, and these are rare. Either your existence, that is the self that you perceive of as yourself, your capability of sensing the world around you, etc. It either is or is not specifically unique. It is or is not special. If it is, that begs the question of a higher power of some sort, a cosmic force, a pantheon, a god, whatever you want to term it. In which case, then you're not going anywhere, presumably, because this being has given you that special status in some way. Or it is not special. If it's not special, then there's no reason why the self, that is the you that is encapsulated in your sensory capabilities, can't arise anywhere else after the death of the vehicle it's currently using. It's not special. It doesn't matter where it arises. It's capable of being transmitted from one place and time to another because there's nothing special about it. It's simply physical. In which case you have nihilism, but you also have reincarnation of a sort. Zinc Orbi, the TDS virus is detectable by noting the declaration of Trump's provable crimes by the victim. This delirious parroting verifies infection. Yeah, you see a lot of that. Provable crimes, plausible crimes, and things of that nature. To be clear with this second link, though, what we're talking about is not really a rogue FBI. It's the FBI doing what it's been doing since the Hoover era anyway. This is why the FBI should be abolished. There's no need for it. Now we have a grift, a very major grift. Again, this is coincidental timing, a couple of months before the midterms, which is when this will be announced. Student loan borrowers await Biden plan on debt forgiveness. Oh, forgiven. You've been forgiven for signing a fucking promissory note. Washington, AP. Millions of Americans were waiting to learn the fate of their federal student debt on Wednesday as President Joe Biden prepared to deliver on his campaign promise to provide up to $10,000 in debt cancellation. Details of the plan have been closely guarded, but borrowers who earn less than $125,000 a year would be eligible for the loan forgiveness, according to 3 people familiar with the decision. So keep in mind that may or may not actually be the case. Biden is also set to extend a pause on federal student loan payments through January. Haven't we done this long enough? The real problem is that if you do this long enough, people will normalize their incomes and their spending habits, and you'll destroy the economy if you ever go back to forcing them to repay the loans that they took out. And that's really it. Kicking the can down the road is the same thing as just fucking getting rid of the debt altogether. They might as well. At this point, it's probably too late to do anything else. It'll destroy the economy, but then again, kicking the can down the road will do the same thing. Gary Jean, do you think the student loan forgiveness and Mar-a-Lago raid will help Democrats in the midterms? I think that among far left individuals, forgiving a chunk of student debt will be popular. I think that the inflation hits after the midterms, which is the whole point. There's a reason why Biden shut up about this when he first got elected. This was a main campaign pledge, not just by him, but by other Democrats. They pledged that they were going to do this. Why do you think they waited until a couple of months before the midterms? Because the damage that it'll do, that will disproportionately affect the lower classes, completely erasing any savings by the way that they have garnered from this, will not show up until the subsequent year. That's what they're doing. It is a scam. To be clear to all the liberals out there, all 2 or 3 of you that are watching this just to down thumb it and bitch and complain, you are being scammed right now. I say this as someone with several tens of thousands in student loan debt. I don't want it forgiven. I don't want the government to keep pausing the payments. I want them to leave me and everyone else alone. We took out the debt. We signed the goddamn promissory note. We're responsible for it. The idea that the economy has been so gravely damaged that people are not capable of paying off their debt, if anything, is a stunning rebuke of government interventionism. You created the economy. Biden in the Senate as VP and so forth. Obama, all of these people, you created the economy that is causing that problem. This was not a problem 70 years ago. It simply wasn't. Yes, people got into debt, people went bankrupt, etc. Farms went under and so forth. Not on the scale that we're seeing now. It is the government's fault. They have created an onerously difficult to navigate and exceptionally expensive educational system. It's not heralded anywhere else in the world, the kind of structure that we have. They did this through interventionism. They then throw more and more loans at people, especially need-based loans, to people who are the least likely to succeed, who are going off to get women's studies degrees and so forth. The government caused the problem. Now the government seeks to use taxpayer money to solve the problem. I would also ask, what about people who have paid down their student loan debt? What about people who have paid it off mostly or completely? You are screwing them. You are essentially telling tens of millions of tax-paying Americans, fuck yourself. This is basically what this boils down to. It will not help the economy. It will harm the economy, but that harm will show up later. Haverkamp Truth, abolish all pigs. But bacon is tasty. Alexander McQueen, what are your thoughts on Alan Watts? I don't have a huge amount of thoughts on Alan Watts. Junkie96, favorite build in Fallout 4? I don't know what you mean by build specifically. If you mean like character development, I typically go for basically being just running in and battering things with automatic weapons. I prefer to have a reasonable amount of speed and stealth and decent armor, and then just go in with a machine gun and gun everyone down. Mobster style, especially if you have an automatic weapon that has explosive rounds in it. Really easy. Apache Senpai, I was just starting to red pill my roommate about Biden and his corruption, but he's getting taken into the student debt charade. Yeah, he'll save money every month on his student loan payments, assuming that the debt total is less than 10 grand. That's great. Then when the inflation shows up 6 months, a year later, he will be paying more for literally everything. If you think that inflation right now is high, it'll be higher. And then all of that extra money will disappear. Into the pockets of who? The super rich, the donor class. Hey, Biden knows full well what he's doing. Turgidson, $14.99 Australian, no comment, thank you. Battle Elf, hey Sticks, why not just let people default on student loans like all other types of debt? Yeah, why not just bring back student loan bankruptcy? That was a thing up until the mid-2000s. Boss Ken Sogme, donate your hair to Tim Pool. Defying the meta, why do you not believe in the possibility of civil war? From a historical standpoint, the climate is there. No, too many people are too decadent to take up arms at the moment. They're distracted by a million other things. Devin Frazier, can the government pay off my mortgage as well? Yeah, why not? Why not just forgive all debt? We'll just completely wreck the economy and have a debt jubilee. Haverkamp Truth, the Putin price hike won't happen this year. Most of the farmers had already bought their fertilizer by the time the war started. Some didn't, though, and it will affect prices. It just will be blunted until the subsequent year, but you are correct. CS, I paid off my student loan 25 years ago. I look forward to the $10,000 rebate I'll be getting. Ha ha ha, sucks to be responsible and successful like you. You get nothing. Full Sinelli, Box A17, C DJ Cham. Alrighty. Joker 1 over on Rumble. On Greek Icaria Island, 1/3 of people live past 90 years. Since the other Greek islands have similar lifestyles, herding goats, eating seafood, home gardens, etc., do you think the longevity is due to genetics? Genetics and lifestyle. Genetics make a huge difference. So does a good lifestyle. Plenty of exercise. Rural living is better than urban living. Good diet. And Joker 1, the United States' largest asset is $3 trillion in student loan debt. Otherwise, America is completely insolvent. Yeah, we're in debt to ourselves to the tune of 10 trillion or more. Brandito H, abolish interest rates. That would be problematic if you have a growing economy, just to tell the truth. That is one of the few things that leftoid economics actually kind of comprehends. Rob S, I am a clankaholic. Good morning. I'm checking Pixel Planet. I see that people are beginning to water it in there. That's excellent. Yes, indeed. If you are watching on YouTube or cross-platform, link in the description, of course. If you're watching on YouTube, at the top of chat, there will be a pinned comment. We are overrunning Pixel Planet, and all of that orange and yellow area that is roughly to the south of where you will spawn if you take that link needs to be turned blue, like the rest of the ocean. Had a vote earlier on Twitter to see whether people wanted to flank the Nazis, gobble up more border areas, or increase the waterfront. And waterfront won out, so that's just what I put in there. Zinc Orby, how do you tip on Rumble? I don't know, having not done so. I think when you go to chat, though, I think you just press that little yellow money bag thingamabobber there and do something. I think you have to put in card info. They don't work with PayPal. Dagnabbit32 on Rumble. Sticks, what do you think of conspiracy theory that Obama is secretly running the presidency? I don't think it's Obama. I think it's a cabal of people that also influenced Obama, which is worse. Sarah Moore, I saw a magic school near Rutland in upstate New York. Wondered if you knew about it and your thoughts. Take this money for the baby clank. Thank you. No, I didn't know that one existed up there. I'm assuming in the Albany-Troy area or thereabouts. So yes, Biden is grifting. He's trying to convince people to vote for him in exchange for meager handout that will be reabsorbed over the coming couple of years economically. Enjoy your nothing, because that's literally what you're going to get with his forgiveness deal. Editorial, the national opioid crisis needs national solutions. This is an editorial from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Who's this article by? Fucking doesn't seem to. Beth Macy's Raising Lazarus. Okay. Anyway, here's how you deal with the opioid crisis in the United States, which never needed to be a thing, by the way. It was started by pharmaceutical companies. It wasn't started by people in Afghanistan growing poppies. It wasn't even started by Chinese laboratories cooking up fentanyl. It addicted half their own population that way too. The opium wars, I guess, never ended. What happened is that OxyContin and shit like that was given out like candy to people. I remember when I had my wisdom teeth out, I can't remember the year, but I was about 14 or 15. They gave me like half a bottle of fucking Percocets. I dumped them down the toilet stupidly instead of selling them because at the time it just made me nauseous. I took the ibuprofen and sucked on some popsicles instead and did fine. They gave me, I don't know how many fucking doses of Percocet were in there, but it was a considerable amount of painkillers, and they're highly addictive. And they were giving them out to people for literally anything. You got a stomach ache? Clearly, you need some oxycodone. You've got arthritis? Well, we're going to just jump you up on Vicodin. We'll get you fine really quick. Percocet for, a teenager, 13, 14 years old. They get their wisdom teeth out, and they give you enough Percocet to kill an elephant. This is the reason why we have this problem. Millions of people got doped up because of minor surgery and were handed enormous numbers of pills. And then they run out, and then they are complaining to the doctor, oh my God, I just feel terrible. I'm so achy and stuff. And the doctor just gives them more. They get them hooked. Eventually, those are no longer enough. Sometimes they would crush and snort these fucking pills, get them all doped up on everything under the sun. And you wonder why there are more people that switch to heroin. I wonder why. At this point, you probably can't even get heroin anymore. It's probably all fentanyl at this point because it's so much cheaper. Imagine that you're the druggie that develops the concept that heroin isn't enough. It's sort of like with cocaine. Coke, it's pretty good, but it's just not doing it for me anymore. Let's cook some crack. Coke and heroin were not enough for people. And the pharmaceutical industry caused this. I wonder what'll come after fentanyl. Something else that's even cheaper and more powerful eventually will come along. They'll just call it nuclear bomb on your brain. You snort it once and you just fucking die. Well, no more pain. You're dead. Tyler Knox, do you think they'll ever have anything on Trump that won't end up being a Nothingburger? No, I think that he crossed all his T's and dotted all of his I's for years prior to running for the presidency. Pork Rhino, do you think the Biden administration is devaluing money on purpose so they can push a new electronic currency in the future? Part of it, yeah. I think that there is a conspiracy afoot. Blaine Cole sent 1,000 yen, I believe it is. Thank you very much. No comment. Mitch James, your thoughts on Jimmy Dore and Russell Brand? I find them all right, but get praise for covering what the right has been for years while pushing Marx, etc. Yeah, broken clock syndrome applies to these individuals. Sporadically entertaining, sporadically right. Thomas Hayden, recommend Road to Damascus, a story about a sentient tank dealing with a corrupt government. Good read, but scary with today's issues. Huh. Sarah Moore, it was called Gray School. Oh, the Gray School of Wizardry, yes. I will look into it and let you know. Also, tips for winter gardening. Again, it depends on the climate. If it's upstate New York, there's not much you can do in the winter there. With gardening. Indoor gardening makes sense. Get a sodium vapor lamp. It will cost a lot in electricity, but you can grow literally anything under one of those. It feels just like the sun. No more seasonal effective. So yeah, we've got the opioid crisis there. Again, it's easy to solve the problem. Go after the pharmaceutical companies. That, close the border. Decriminalize all of the soft drugs and simple possession, get people into treatment, and then really go after people that are trafficking, that are dealing. Somebody wants to have a couple weed plants in their lawn. That should not be a priority. Take those cops and go raid the crack dealer on the corner that's selling to 10-year-olds. But that would be too easy. It would solve the problem. Without the problem, the government can't justify ever increasing budgets for the police and stuff. Then we have another news story. New case of Ebola virus confirmed in Democratic Republic of Congo. Yes, Ebola is back, or technically speaking, never really left. Analyses showed that the case was genetically linked to the 2018 to 2020 outbreak in North Kivu and Ituri provinces, the country's longest and largest, the statement read. Scientists say the virus can remain present in the central nervous system and bodily fluids of survivors and flare up much later. Yes, including as an STD, sort of similar to monkeypox. Ebola resurgences are occurring with greater frequency in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is concerning. Yeah, no shit. It's because there's more people there. And therefore, there's more sex, there's more interpersonal contact, there's also more absorption of bushmeat into the diet. Of course, you're going to get more Ebola cases. You're going to get more cases of every epidemiological disease, actually, when you think about it. Contact tracing and monitoring is underway, and 200 vaccinations will be sent to the area this week to begin a vaccination campaign to curb the spread, the statement read. Health authorities are still determining the vaccination status of the deceased woman, it added. Yeah, that one is actually a good idea to take if you happen to be in Central or West Africa. I would point out the most deadly Ebola outbreak was not in Congo. It was far to the west. It was in, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea, I think. I can't remember the name of the third country. And that was years ago. You remember Ebola Chan and stuff like that. The only reason that became so deadly, it hit the heavily populated slum suburbs of some of the larger cities there in Libreville and so forth. And it burned through the population. Thankfully, nature took care of it, and there was an asymptomatic variant that began spreading, and it was effectively inoculating people against the symptomatic version of the disease. That hasn't happened in Congo. And the one saving grace is that most of this particular region of Central Africa is still very sparsely populated. That's the only reason you haven't had a massive outbreak at this point. But it's getting closer and closer and more common around areas that are heavily populated. At some point in the indeterminate future, probably within most of our lifetimes, Ebola will probably manage to crack through and get into a place like Lagos, and it'll start killing everybody. The problem is that with more and more humans contracting it, you get more and more chances of mutation. At some point, it becomes potentially more transmissible, and then you have a virus that kills 10, 20% of the world population and burns out of control across much of the known world. That will happen, unfortunately. Historically speaking, if you look at the disease timeline, there's one caveat to it. Roughly every 100 years, you get a major epidemic or something. A lot of people are saying, well, we got COVID through with. Okay, that's our epidemic. Until the last century, the human population moved a lot more slowly and was a lot smaller. The problem is that you've taken that timeline and shrunk it, in my opinion, by an order of magnitude. Indeed, if we look at Drake's equation, we could have identified why alien races never end up taking to the stars. every 10 years, they end up killing themselves off with a disease or something like that. I think there will be another much more major pandemic in the immediate future. Again, immediate meaning within a generation or two, within our lifetimes. And it's going to kill a hell of a lot of people. I warned about the coming of the prior pandemic years before it came. And I'm telling you, I don't think that we have another 100 years to wait. Ebola is a prime suspect in what could become that problem. It could also be plague. The other problem, we do still have bubonic plague in the world, and all you need is one mutation to turn it from primarily bubonic, so it's spreading by fluid from the buboes, direct contact, to pneumonic plague that has a respiratory side to it, becomes far more transmissible, and starts killing 50-60% of the people that get it. Wouldn't it be wonderful? And with international travel, it's capable of causing more flashpoints in the world, burning through the population before it can burn through so many generations. Therefore, you don't necessarily get a devolution to a less deadly variant. That would be not world ending, but it would certainly be civilization ending for a lot of people in the world. JWT6577 blows my mind sometimes that a guy who that built his empire building casinos in Atlantic City is this clean. Yeah, no, that wasn't the beginning of his empire. That was a huge money sink for Trump. His was mostly in real estate, like condos and shit. Sparky, fentanyl used to only be used in clinical setting. Corrupt FDA changed that. Thunderstorm, are they really Nazis in Ukraine or just nationalists and it's more fun to say Nazi? Well, they're nationalists. I don't know about their economic views, so I don't know if they're National Socialists, actually. Apache Senpai, I work as fire, EMT, and ODs are on the rise. Everyone is on fentanyl, rich or poor. It's getting worse recently with the state of the economy. Yeah, people seek escapism. That's why alcoholism is on the rise. Except in Japan. They're trying to make people alcoholic for some unknown reason. The Rubicon Tim Pool's ombudsman. Nauseous isn't a word. That word is nauseated. Language Nazi status confirmed. Trump did nothing wrong. Pure blood in Portland. Pray for me. Frank Spasato, do you think the debt grift will pass? It's not entirely clear because the left may say that 10K is too little and then block the bill. They're also looking like they might at least attempt to block the Manchin-Schumer deal on inflation. The left would actually have the right idea economically if they do so. Battle Elf, allowing student debt default will free millions from crushing debt and cost taxpayers nothing. Why is no one championing this? Because they want to grift. They want more inflation. It would be too easy to simply go back to a system that worked. Cold Summer 91, do you think Ebola will become another pandemic? At some point, unfortunately, unless it's preempted by some other disease, yeah. Alejandro Munoz, Sticks, I have never given you proper kudos for being such a prolific student of the occult. Cheers. Careful, kids. Occult is one hell of a drug. Lol, LMAO even. Battle Elf, imagine boon to economy millions of student debt-free Americans could have. Yeah, I mean, it would improve their lives and wouldn't necessarily inflate things the same way that pumping funny money into the system would. Viking Woman 1988 refused to attend the Satanic Temple's 2023 Satanicon in late April because of vaccine and mask mandates. No rebels of Satan in that farcical group. Cold Summer 91. Okay, I sent the Ebola question just as you were saying it could become a pandemic. Do you think polio is another suspect for pandemic in coming years? My hope is we eradicate it first. We're capable of doing it in a few short months if we put our minds to it. Absorb the cost of using the injected vaccine as opposed to the oral vaccine and blanket the hell out of the few areas where it's still found outside of rodent populations and then engage in elaborate sanitation efforts. We can eradicate one of the most horrific diseases of the last few hundred years in a matter of months with the economy of a small country, effectively. It would not put a burden on the world's supply medically. We can do it. It would be easy. Sort of like the worms that Jimmy Carter keeps trying to make extinct and refuses to die till they go before he does. A guinea worm, I think it's called. It's like there's like 2 reservoirs in the whole world left of them. 1976, say you are a target. Alex Jones, Donald Trump. If you come out as trans, will the Democrats be forced to celebrate you? No, they'd call it disingenuous. For anyone else, they wouldn't be able to do that. But for someone that they really, really hate, they would. Now we have Kristi Noem. She's being gunned after by the neocons. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem may have engaged in misconduct. May have, you'll note that particular line, ethics board says. Noem took a hands-on role in a state agency soon after it had moved to deny her daughter's application for a real estate appraiser license in 2020, the AP previously reported. So this is a hit piece. An ethics board gets involved, a toothless one that doesn't even have any specific capability to do anything other than recommend to the governor punitive action, the problem being Kristi Noem is the governor. And so they're investigating it. And now they're saying there may have been misconduct. Maybe we'll do something about it. Ho-hum. Yeah, but it becomes big news anyway. NBC News, it was on front page here. And it's like you have an allegation that something may have happened. You have no particular way to punish, no particular ramifications are faced, yet you're still putting it on the front page. It's because they don't like Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem is one of a handful of people that's like fairly super MAGA, and so they don't like her. She refused to bend knee and disavow Donald Trump. That was her problem. The board can issue a public or private reprimand or direct an official to do community service. It can also make recommendations to the governor, though that option seems unlikely since the complaints are leveled against Noem, who is the governor. That's rather awkward. And they put this in a few years ago, actually, the ethics board thing that they have in South Dakota. The complaints are proving to be the first major test of the board, which was launched in 2017 in response to several scandals in state government. It has never taken public action against a state official. So what the fuck? Why is this even particularly newsworthy other than you don't like Kristi Noem and you like a very selectively worded article here? May have engaged in misconduct, ethics board says. That means literally nothing. You might as well not say it because it's so vacuous. But Kristi Noem is naughty. She's on the naughty list for the neocons. Mark Duquesne sees the endowments from the colleges. That's 40% of all student loan debt. And applied equally would pay off more than $10K each. Yeah, you could do that. Get rid of their bullshit. Lace W, good morning. Well wishes to you and yours. Clank, thank you very much. Yeah, I don't think anyone, let me check. Has anyone messaged me the Paul Pelosi thing there? Oh, yeah, I've got somebody, thank you, Awu, there for the Paul Pelosi. I'll watch that later. Paul Pelosi, apparently we have dash cam footage of him being completely sauced when he was driving erratically. He will face no repercussions, despite DUI and other potential charges. That's because he's rich. Laws for thee, not for me, is the name of the game. Just a second here. Oh, yeah, here's a good one. MSNBC posting this, actually, the other day. The GOP governor has been sending undocumented migrants, illegal immigrants, to cities run by Democrats. Now he's basking in the mess he's created. This is in regards to Greg Abbott, and the government of Arizona is doing the same. They don't mention that. Sending people who are illegally in the United States to New York City and DC mainly, to sanctuary cities. These sanctuary cities have responded by bitching, even though they're saying, come all ye faithful, all the huddled masses, they should all be in the U.S. But they don't want them in their cities because then it puts a strain on resources. We don't understand. We don't have the ability to take care of so many people. None of these people have apparently the cognitive recognition of the fact that Texas and Arizona are utterly overwhelmed. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. New York City is bitching about a few thousand. It's a city of 17 million goddamn people, and you don't have enough homeless shelters to deal with a few thousand extra people? What are you, a bunch of bigots? I mean, the question is rhetorical. Of course they are. They don't want homeless migrants in their city. They want them to stay down in Texas, where thems belong. That's basically the line that they're not saying out loud. Steven, speaking on the opioid crisis, there's a photo going around. Someone built a free vending machine filled with Narcan in Austin, fixing overdoses, but also feel like it aids addiction without consequences. I think that Narcan is a good thing. Spreading around things that can save a life of someone who's ODing, I don't see a problem with that. Yeah, I'm aware on Pixel Planet, by the way, that people have been attacking the Ouroboros. They've partially beheaded it. And that's being done, I guess, by Nazis. So you can go to the Ouroboros that's down to the south of the link there. It's down near the Catalonian flag and shit. And you can help to restore that too if you want at your leisure, although I think it is self-healing. Some of these things are scripted. There are bots that operate on this site, including among clankers. I don't, because I literally wouldn't have a clue how to set it up, but other people apparently know how. But the Nazis are mad at us because we've ruined the entire edge of their giant fucking swastika. And that wouldn't have happened, but you were invading our territory. We are a libertarian enclave. We could have shared the continent of Africa, but our neighbors decided that they wanted our land, so now we have to kick their ass. Their swastika is a total mess, by the way. It looks like someone dumped macaroni and cheese cum all over it. And it's great. It's hideous. I mean, just take a look at it. It's fucking ugly as sin. We should leave their giant one that they're currently building alone since it's far away. But we might as well just subsume these other ones. Let them have their giant-ass Atlantic swastika, and we'll just take over all of Africa. It seems like a fair trade. Then we don't have to be neighbors anymore. Anyway, a diversion. Michael Greco, sending $100. Thank you very much. I work as an ER doctor. I've noticed in the past 5 years an increase of young people coming to the ER for trivial things that prior generations wouldn't dream of coming with. My fear is it's poor coping skills, and I can't imagine healthcare in another 10 to 20 years. Yeah, I mean, that is true. You get NIMBYists, like suburbanites are probably the ones that are doing that more than anyone else. Going in and saying little Jimmy has a paper cut. Oh my God, he's going to get sepsis and die or something. There are people that are like that. Myself, I avoid going to the hospital for any reason unless it's significant. Last time it was because I literally couldn't hear in one ear. The guess was it was wax buildup, but you kind of want to make sure when you're effectively deaf in one ear that it's not something worse than that. And that was years ago. Before that, it must have been 5 years since I had gone to the doctor. I'm not exactly up to date on my vaccinations, mainly because I hate needles. The Grizzly, do you like Star Trek? If so, what's your favorite? No, I'm not a fan of Star Trek. I find it to be nothing more than a space soap opera. Ilhitu, student debt gets forgiven. Next week, rent goes up. Oh, it won't be next week. It'll show up months later, which is why they're timing it before the midterms like they are. Devin Price, do the results of New York 19 mean red wave isn't happening? Yeah, I've seen about that. An incumbent Democratic position they narrowly held on to. It's not exactly a bellwether after all. No, I do not think that has anything to do with an upcoming pink wave or red puddle or whatever they're going to determine that it is. Right now, the legacy media is trying to reinvigorate Democratic voters by astroturfing some great recovery based on the as yet unpassed Manchin-Schumer inflation deal. Oh, well, they've really upped themselves in the polls. No, the House is going to go sharply Republican. Just to be clear, that will happen. The Senate has always been a 50-50 deal. They're acting as though the even split potentially being retained in the Senate is some major movement in favor of the Dems. It was never a done deal that the GOP was going to take those positions anyway. I've been saying it for almost a year now. Ian O'Malley, don't care what the poll said. We need to take on the Nazis and steal all their cool art off to the Northwest. Yeah, you can attack the Nazis. I've been paneling some of that into. We've made huge amounts of progress. We've not just driven them back. We've defaced the hell out of their goddamn swastikas, which is hilarious. You could have been nice neighbors and respected our land. Hippity hoppity, get off of our property. Literally nobody was defacing anything of yours until you started growing your black tendril bullshit there, the Fibonacci stuff into our clankdom. We were leaving you alone. We were too busy coloring in the ocean and shit like we are now. But, then the Ukrainians decided to push the limits, and so we had to drive them back. And I noticed after not using the site for some weeks, I noticed the Nazis were doing the same thing. So now your swastika will be painted over. It won't exist anymore. It's going to be absorbed into clankdom. They will retaliate, of course. Again, they've been beheading the Ouroboros and shit. You can paint that back in. I'd do it myself, but honestly, as far as the more complex art on here goes, I don't know how to do jack shit. That's why I started tiling things in, because it's easy. Hi, Leaf11. I would like to know if you can give a shout out to a YouTube channel called The Porch Boys. Well, I just did. Evan Thompson. California and Yellowstone are swarming with earthquakes and the USGS underreports it. Media silence. Ring of Fire is awakening. Thanks for all you do, bud. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I remember that was a thing years ago. People thought Yellowstone was going to blow up. It could happen at any time, vaporizing an enormous chunk of the United States and causing civilizations all around the world to collapse. Isn't it lovely to live in such a dynamic world? Battle Elf, what exactly are people not understanding? Allowing student loan default is not the same as forgiveness, doesn't require taxpayer money, and doesn't affect anyone else. Brandon and Senate responsible for the mess. Agreed. KA, all are welcome in the under construction colony of New Clanco, northwest of the mother spoonland of Clanconia. Help us build and grow. Yeah, also, we do have good neighbors down to the southeast. We have libertarians that have been building a bunch of ANCAP stuff down there. They haven't, I noticed they haven't hippity hopped onto our property. Only the Nazis and Ukrainians have done that. Michael Greco, Star Trek is just a leftist handy J communist fantasy. I didn't get the sense it was communistic. I just get the sense it's fucking cringe. I'd rather waste my time doing something that at least affects others, like making red and yellow tiles on Pixel Planet or doing live streams. By the way, how many people are watching live right now? Now, we got almost 6,000 live at the moment. Over on Rumble, Joker1, USA has over 150 trillion in unfunded liabilities over the next 30 years. Massive inflation is the only answer the deep state will accept. And we have Cold Summer 91. To this day, I'm glad I went to community college. I now don't have to worry about student debt. Yay! Yeah, and you know, for some of us, we racked up student debt, but then we, you know, built a reasonable career, so we don't have to worry either. Why should I have to suffer because someone else can't pay their student loans off? It's just going to screw both of us. In the end, the only ones that don't get screwed, the rich and the government. Mitch James, why do progressives go on about Israel and Palestine, Russia and Ukraine, and attack the West, yet silent on the CCP and Uyghurs and Taiwan? Because they like China. Most of them are pawns of China. So yeah, people are whining about Greg Abbott and bussing in illegals into New York City and Mayor Bowser throwing a hissy fit down in D.C. Your sanctuary cities, you want them there. You made it clear you won't cooperate with ICE. Well, then shelter these people. Your taxpayers can support that. You don't need my money. Charlie Crist wallops Nikki Fried in Democratic primary for Florida governor. Now, this uses slightly outdated numbers here. It was a little bit closer than the final number that they're giving in this particular report. That was with 81% of precincts reporting. I was very close. I said the over and under was going to be 20 points by which Crist would win. It was about 24. That's reasonably close. You know, there was some wiggle room because you only had one major polling firm conducting polls most of the time. And you had a couple of outlier polls, so it was difficult to get the actual number. But it was clear that there was a 100% chance that Crist would win. And now he's going to go off and he's going to face off against DeSantis and the general in Florida. And he will lose, by the way, in that battle. DeSantis will win re-election. There's a 0% chance Crist will pull it off. Here's my thought, though. I looked at what Nikki Fried said immediately after the race was called, like within an hour. And I thought it was so funny because it was basically like a Bernie Sanders moment. Do you remember when Bernie Sanders was facing off against Hillary? And he kept hammering her at debates and at rallies and saying, oh, she's the face of the establishment. She's the face of all of the rich people. She doesn't have good ideas. Then when he loses, the very second that he loses, he says, well, I think it would be so great if we cracked the glass ceiling. She's really our gal. He waited a little while to officially endorse, but he wasn't exactly continuing with his hard left shtick, now was he? Because he realized he wanted a future political career mainly, in the Senate mostly. There's no chance of a Bernie presidency at this point. He's, 84, 85 years old, so I think that train has left the station. Really, really interesting. Crist praised Fried for fighting the good fight, adding, we share the same goal, to save our state and defeat DeSantis. And she was praising him and stuff. You people were calling each other pretty much every name under the sun 24 hours ago. Oh, Crist is a sellout. He's a corporatist. He only became a Democrat out of convenience. He was marginally conservative before. Oh, Nikki Fried is so far left. She'd be like Bernie Sanders. She's unelectable. She's fucking crazy. And now they're the best of friends. Politics makes goofy bedfellows. You imagine those two in bed, it'd be a little bit like the Bay of Pigs invasion, I suppose. Sparky, original Star Trek was good. The rest are too politically correct. Yeah, I guess the old one from, what was it, the 60s, that's okay. With Leonard Nimoy and shit. The White Wolf, $4.99, no comment, thank you. Shane Berryhill, what are your thoughts on Milley directly disobeying Trump on Afghanistan and having the letter leak admitting to treason covered by angry cops? I don't know about that particular story. I do know there was a separate memo, though, in which Milley effectively undercuts some of the arguments made by J6 with regards to Donald Trump. Ozzy's Robots. I've had some dreams where I'm a completely different person with foreign memories and completely novel environments. Past life or someone else's consciousness. The power of imagination. Past lives cannot be remembered because they are physically locked to the organism which is containing those memories. Those are just in your brain. Those are not the true self. They are a partition of it. Gary Jean, do you think the race to the White House polls are accurate? They show Democrats going back up. No, I don't think that they're accurate, no. I think it's a lot to do about nothing at the moment. Donna K, for your brass collection. Oh, thank you. The White Wolf, if you can't afford $60 a month in loan payments, why do you think you'll afford a $1,500 tax bill on the cancellation of debt income? Because these people are not thinking about long-term things. The fact is that they have this trouble repaying in some cases because they're just fucking too stupid to manage an account book. In that case, doesn't matter how much money they get, they'll always be poor. Give them $1 million. See what happens within a couple of years. They'll have squandered the entire thing because they don't have any foresight or any knowledge of economic planning. Keep in mind, some of these people literally work in the government planning the economy. That's why the USSR had problems. Someone you may know, Nikki Fried, got to be given props, though. As Secretary of Agriculture, she's had her name and face on every gas pump in the state. Take that as you will. Spider Eternal. If student loans can default again, loans won't be handed out like candy anymore either. W. Bush ruined so many generations with his bullshit legislation. Yep, that's another Bush failing, but people keep telling me about how great he was. Neocons and neolibs now love the Bush dynasty because Orange Man bad. Melinda de los Santos sent 1999. No comment, thank you. Now we have Paul Krugman weighing in. Now keep in mind, if Paul Krugman says something, then the opposite tends to be true. If he tells you that you should jump at a particular moment, you should probably duck down because something's coming towards your head. Jumping up will just make it hit you in the heart and kill you faster. It will be terribly rude if lots of people tweet out images of Ron DeSantis making a fool of himself by cosplaying as a fighter pilot. This is a picture of him from a campaign ad where he's in the cockpit of a plane. Now, they're comparing this to Dukakis in a tank. Can I please ask Krugman and other liberals? I know who Dukakis is because I'm a political commentator. I have to know quite a bit about political history, political figures, etc. It gives me great joy to know who Dan Quayle is, etc. How many millennials especially do you think goddamn know who fucking Dukakis is? When you're comparing this to a dude in a tank, who cares? Nobody even knows who he is. An also ran from yesteryear, from back when Paul Krugman had a little bit of color in his hair. You think that this is compelling to anyone under 40? They don't know who Dukakis is. Or Quayle. They don't know who any of these people. They barely remember Herbert Walker Bush, half of them. Half of them don't even, the Zoomers don't even know who George W. is. Why do you think that he has higher approval among their neocon asses when they're standard style conservatives? When they get it from Fox, oh, Bush really was a good man at the end of the day. Or they get it from the liberals now, too. Half the Democrats worship George W. Bush now. That's because they're ignorant about him, because they're not old enough to recognize who he was. They had to have been born early enough on so they remember the Iraq War and 9/11 and shit. Dukakis dates to before that. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody cares. I would also point out, Ron DeSantis is a naval lieutenant. He is still in the reserve as of this very moment. He's still a reservist, which is strange since he's also governor. I don't know if that's a conflict of interest. So what's cringy or odd about him being in the cockpit of a plane? He's not claiming to be a fighter pilot. He's sitting in a cockpit. with his flight suit on. A little bit different, little apples to oranges there. It's not cringy. It's a person who's been in command marginally of a SEAL team in the military being in a plane. Oh my God, it's such a terrible time. I'll tell you why they're doing this. They're terrified of DeSantis. Any attack that they can make on him through the midterms, they want to make. Because if DeSantis wins, he's very unlikely to run against Trump in 24. If he loses, though, if he manages somehow, I don't think there's any possibility of this, but if Crist were to win, DeSantis would be like, well, I'm not governor right now. I have nothing better to do, and I have all these fans. I'm going to run for the presidency. That's exactly what they want. That's their best case scenario, which is why they're trying this bullshit. A bunch of asterisks and hey Stick, shout out to Rusty Cage and Dr. Randomer Cam. Both have BitChute channels and both could use a boost. Also, a musical collab of any combination of the three of you would be amazing. Cool. Fire down below. Do you believe in genetic memory from prior relatives? No, but epigenetics is real. Adam THM, Sticks, what are your thoughts of a lot of school birds flipping in many states? Are Dems too interested in national that they will lose states? Yes, I think the Democrats have a top-down approach, and it does very well at the federal level, but it doesn't do so well at the local and state. By the way, please no more super chats, because I'm starting to get hungry and I have to make dal makhani later. It's an Indian food with black lentils, kidney beans, onion, masala, and all of these other wonderful things. I've had it before, and it's extremely buttery and creamy, and it's just, trust me, it's delicious. Make some dal makhani. Aesthetic, hey Sticks, if you have a little time after the stream, Ghost is in the inner circle right now. I'm sure he'd enjoy a quick word if you would like to. A bunch of asterisks again. Also, please buy some cloth diapers in case the shit hits the fan. I don't think it'd be too difficult to compensate. Sparky, loans caused college to become expensive. True, mostly. So did grants. I see Thu, running for U.S. Fed office in 24. What are some good sites to advertise with extremely limited money to get started? Well, you could try 4chan, I suppose. Michael Dukakis, young people love me. Yeah, Dukakis is, I think he's still alive, so he must be really thrilled that he's being mentioned in a political context. Battle Elf, I invented avocado toast. Oh, God. Grevin Share, Miller resignation letter stated that Trump was ruining the international order because Trump doesn't understand the world order. This was written prior to J6. Treason on paper if verified. Yeah, well, then I guess we have to haul him into the hooskow. And we have Not That Brandon on Rumble. I would never have imagined that fighting a pixel war with neo-Nazis would be so much fun. Lol. Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. We now have to restore the Ouroboros down there. Somebody's trying to do it right now. And we have to claim more aquatic property. And then we've got to, color in the giant swastika. It'll probably take about a month, to tell the truth, considering the growth rate. Keep in mind, I think that we're probably the largest faction on Pixel Planet still. It takes a very long amount of time because I don't know how many pixels exactly exist in this world, but it's a pretty goddamn big map. And so we control a huge chunk of Central Africa through the Ivory Coast and random other shit around the world. At one time, we were based mainly in Vermont. Now, for some reason, somebody's coloring in New York State in the red and yellow, actually. I don't know why. Also encompasses what little is left of Wisconsin there. I didn't realize that. The rest of Wisconsin has been turned into another Great Lake. And a giant chunk of Washington State and a little bit of what used to be California. And random other shit around this map. Also, please don't target the Brazilians. Someone was trying to color in their giant green flag there. And I'm assuming that's bot related. I did actually get contacted by someone from Brazil on this. So we're in league with the Brazilians now. We're allies. So Clankdom's allies on Pixel Planet, Brazil, and a bunch of ANCAPs. And it used to be that the Nazis sort of left us alone because they were building in the other direction. I don't know exactly why they started trying to color in our shit. You knew that we were still active. Do we have any other allies? I guess the Dutch by default or something like that. Anyway, yeah, it's definitely fun. If you go around this map, you can literally spend hours finding weird shit that people have drawn because it's so goddamn huge. Yeah, I think those are the same people maybe that are coloring in parts of southern Siberia or Kazakhstan, or I think that'd be Kazakhstan up there. Not a whole lot of Chinese users. I wonder why. Anyway, we're just having some Styx Hexen fun right now. Sparky, Dukakis' personality didn't match the tank ad. Yeah, with Ron DeSantis, it's a little bit more fitting, I suppose. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go off now because, again, I have to smush those beans up at some point. I'm not going to cook quite yet, but I don't want to over-soak them. They're in the fridge right now. I don't want them to basically turn to sediment. My hope is that they should be roughly perfect, roughly now. And trust me, make dal makhani. Branch out into making Indian food. It'll look really, really insane at first. And you probably won't get half the ingredients like the spices in your local supermarket. You'll have to get it off eBay or something like that. Once you sort of get the knack for it, though, and it always ends up starting with frying onions, like literally every single meal. Once you get the hang of it, it's fucking delicious. You would never imagine some of the blending of spices and herbs actually would go well together. I tend to dump a bunch of tarragon into every meal as well, just because I like it so much, and so far so good. It definitely goes well with onion. If you want the best smell I've ever smelled, as far as food goes at least, fry onions in butter or ghee and add tarragon to it. Just trust me on this one. Make the whole house smell festive. Ready Player 2, been listening to you for the past year or two, so here's post-due contribution that I kept thinking I need to send. I do appreciate that. I can get more dal tadka, and I can make more dal makhani. Also make aloo palak, palak paneer, all of these. A lot of potato and spinach in a lot of these things too. Anyway, yeah, it's about time to go off and get a little bit of a snack and in a little bit start to prep dinner, because otherwise I'm going to pass out from exhaustion because of heat and lack of food. It'll be like the Oregon Trail real life. That's about all. Peace out.